Welcome, my friend. Have you come to keep me company? Or have you come to visit our viscous?
A man grieving his deceased wife leaves his apartment for the first time in a week to find he's the last living resident, unless you count the building itself, which has come to life in a very literal sense. Unable to distinguish his own willpower from the psychic pull of the living flesh, he takes to the streets in search of answers, off to meet an artist who covets his very skin, and wondering just how much of the world even remains. Welcome to Organ Quarter, an unsung Silent Hill-inspired survival horror game that released in 2017 for Steam VR, then cropped up again for release on modern VR systems in 2023. It's a game spiritually inspired by Silent Hill, but indie, virtual reality, and with way more emphasis on squishy trypophobia flesh monsters than on psychological horror. But there's still plenty of psychological horror. Organ Quarter does not have a lot of coverage. It's mostly limited to reviews or Let's Play footage, but I think the game is a masterpiece since it nails the survival horror basics while adding its own flavor, and it deserves the deeper coverage of a narrated playthrough and retrospective along with lore discussion. Especially with the Silent Hill 2 remake out now, I wanted to spotlight this spiritual clone for anyone who finishes that and craves more excellent horror gaming content in a similar vein. I am Mothy, Jimothy for long, and I keep my intros short, but I will respectfully ask for your like, comment, or subscription if you're enjoying the content. I still try to read every comment, and your support means the world to me as I try to reach 50,000. Y'all were extremely kind to me on my last video, and it encouraged me to be a little braver covering the games I want to cover, even if they're not meta for the algo. Thank you for your support. Now let's get scared. The game begins after a brief tutorial when we stick our head into the toothless, gummy mouth of a flesh television. Oh yes, we're starting off very strong. What we see first is a memory. A doctor administers high doses of an experimental research drug to someone whom they clinically refer to as Sample 17. The doctor pushes for maximum dosage and then silence, a failure. But the doctor is not sad for the loss. Rather, in his arrogance, he's glowing with pride at what medical science has learned from the destruction of this person. We wake up from that nightmare in our big empty apartment. Who cares about size when it's big and lonely? We live at number 705 in the Oregon Project apartment block. Our apartment has 2 bedrooms, a large balcony, generous living area with our own flesh TV, and a big kitchen. A message plays on our answering machine. Our doctor encouraging us to come out of our grief hole and meet him at the movie theater tonight. And there we have our objective. But first, how do we leave this building? On the way out the door, we collect one of my favorite maps in any video game. It's a physical object that we hold in one hand, and with the other hand, we use a little ink dauber to make our own annotations straight on the map, free to invent our own language with the iconography. The hallway is silent, punctuated by rare ceiling creaks and dust falling that have you looking over your shoulder constantly. And many parts are hidden in darkness. We certainly want our flashlight in this game, which is conveniently stapled to our dominant hand and always turned on. Though I do like when other horror games force you to occupy a hand holding your flashlight for tension's sake. Organ Quarter did not give me much for my left hand to be doing. The exit door's handle has a nasty flesh papule growing on it, so I'll need a way to destroy that in order to meet the doctor at the movies. I begin devising my map language. Mark that door purple for I need a gun here. I explore the rest of the floor, jiggling the door handle of the other apartments as I go, finding the first 3 locked. That's a red X on the map. Then, number 708 opens to a curious scene. A gun cabinet holding a Walther PPK and some ammo. It's locked by a weird contraption though. Papa doll on one side, Mama doll on the other. Perhaps we're looking for a small wooden baby as our key to firepower. Room 713, aside from having an awesome cutaway ceiling, has our defining puzzle of Act 1. A hopscotch game on the floor, and out on the balcony, 4 numbered slots on the wall, probably corresponding somehow. It's very Silent Hill of them to show us some complicated puzzle device that we then have to go collect pieces for throughout the zone. We can only open so many doors before encountering danger though. Inside apartment 701, there's noise. Crunchy and slurping, like a hippo eating a watermelon, if that watermelon had bones. We've got to tiptoe right up near Mr. Crunchy because there's a peculiar wooden doll on the table just around the corner, and we're in the market for one of those. Though it's not a baby, it's a monster. Then let's keep our eyes forward and back on out of here. Mark this room as needs gun for sure. How about we go do something about that? Return to 708, place the doll, and bingo! Now we can fight back. I'm a man in the shadows with a gun in my eye and a blade shining oh so bright. Unfortunately, acquiring a gun triggers the classic survival horror thing of spawning enemies in a previously safe area, so the hallways are now a battleground. The zombies that I'll call fleshmen are absolutely disgusting in Organ Quarter. They're crusty, scabrous, and covered in weird holes that look like a cupping treatment gone too far. The shooting feels good though, and fleshmen go down in 3 headshots. And they do stay down. If you search thoroughly for ammo and shoot carefully, there is enough to kill everything in this game permanently. With our gun, how about revisiting Mr. Crunchy's room? There's no sign of him at first, so I grab some supplies, then turn around and see... Oh gosh, it's so much worse. Apparently the devs refer to these internally as pegmen, so we will too. These quadruple amputees have been giving metal stakes as legs and hinged metal arms, terminating in barbecue fork bayonets. But the worst part is the mouth, with some Mr. Anderson-ass skin growing the lips together. Okay, there's a few more rooms to check on this floor. Enter 703 and we find a friend.
Oh, hello. A bit rude of you to walk in here without knocking. I could have been completely undressed. That would have been uncomfortable. It's nice to see you emerge from your apartment anyway. You might have died in there. I'm sure you thought about it, dying all alone. With the stench of rot in these walls, nobody would have found your corpse. How romantic. Hey, when you die, can I have your skin? Sorry, I'm just joking around. You can get back to me on that. I'm going out for a drink later. You should join me. Jupiter's Belly, out near the university, on the edge of the Organ Quarter. We could use each other's company, I'm sure. Take care. For now.
She speaks cryptically, but this all will make sense later. This is the artist, the second person now who has invited us to leave our apartment and come socialize. People here sure are nice, or else they just want to lure us outside. Note that she hides her face with a metal helmet and covers much of her body. It's likely that even normal people here are in the early stages of some kind of skin rot because of the high degree of cover that they wear. Room 704 contains a journal entry from a new character I'll call the Building Lover. Yesterday morning, the walls sounded really healthy. I looked them up after work. Think we have dry-pressed bricks with 8mm joints and cement mortar and a Flemish bond. None of it glazed, probably a cavity wall situation. I can only even the outside layer. I want to go down on this, down into the basement, really get to know the place. Maybe I'll ask the landlord, Madame Harappa. She likes me, I think. In the meantime, I'll just watch the windows. Tall, 2-pane width beauties. Perfectly symmetrical slits. There's even some rubber insulation around the inside, like eyeliner. Whoever lived here had a fascination with the building, bordering on sexual attraction. His wording implies that the building itself is coming to life, which is consistent with the growths we've seen on some doors and walls. And he mentions going down into the basement, which I'm not sure isn't a double entendre. That letter accompanies a yellow jar full of hair. From whom or what, we don't know. And in the corner, jammed between the wall and an old radio cabinet playing gentle piano music, a medkit lies on the floor. This game has no crouch button, which is not great for accessibility, but it's fantastic for immersion. You actually have to crouch down IRL for some of these items and to get through tight spots. Success is determined by your willingness to get down and dirty. There's ammo in little corners and under beds where no normal game would shove supplies, so make sure to be more thorough than usual scrounging for loot. Alright, let's get out of here. Blast the papule off the stairwell door. There's some loot on the landing, but don't get caught. There's a leech barnacle type enemy lurking on the ceiling who will snare you if you don't first shoot its mouth, which looks, for lack of a better term, prolapsy. Then the stairs go down to 6, but they're dizzingly broken off below that, so exit on floor 6. This floor is much darker and in worse repair. A yawning pit seems to indicate that there isn't much left of the floors below us, all the way until the ground. Even though we're safe, the environment has me so much more on edge here. I begin opening doors, fearful to see how this game ups the stakes on us. Well, 612 opens to multiple enemies, which is certainly higher stakes. At least their backs are turned for now. I let the Pegman walk away before following the Fleshman into his living room and executing him there. These interior apartments on floor 6 are nasty. They're much darker without windows and cluttered from all the jumbled furniture blocking the place. Organ Quarter makes great use of sporadic claustrophobia. It's not every area, and it rarely feels obvious or ham-fisted, but a lot of areas will squeeze you in a way that contributes a lot to the terror and works especially well in first-person VR. Make our way to the safe room on floor 6 to find our second gun, quite soon, a Lupara, to finally consume the shotgun shells we've been finding a few of. There's also a second yellow jar, this one full of toenails, and another letter from the building lover. Finally confirmed what's under this lime plaster mix. Run-of-the-mill gypsum board with paper squeezed drywall. Why can't we just call it Plaster of Paris? Far prettier nickname. Hammered and poked away a little of the Paris tonight. Twinge of joy as I got a glimpse of what's behind. Seeing the wall naked was really special. Tomorrow I'm going to ask about the basement. Sure, Madame Harappa will be happy to oblige. The phrasing here of naked walls and wanting to give the building a prettier nickname further personifies this building as a living place. Perhaps this author just noticed it more intensely than the rest of us. Something upsetting about this game is how quiet enemies can be, even when they notice you and begin approaching. The game is not over the top with grunts or battle music. Their aggro range is just outside the range of our flashlight, and it's really creepy seeing a fleshman's movement pattern change right as it senses you. Less is more here. Our way off of floor 6 will be the elevator, which is, of course, missing an electric panel. So for now, we'll continue hunting for body part jars. Room 610 has a new enemy type, this larger, four-armed creature who shakes like a belly dancer and spits acid if you're close enough. They're a good dumpster for shotgun shells. And there's a curious item here, pistol ammo that we cannot use because it's encased in some kind of goo cocoon. Hold on to these goo-covered supplies for a long time. We can use them later, but they do clog the inventory until then, so shove them in the item box. Our third yellow jar is here too, this one containing fingernails. Then 614 is the last important room on this floor. It's rotten with flesh surfaces, and it's home to a whole colony of the thing-like crawling spider heads. These are not very aggressive, but they'll sometimes do a freaky dance midair that makes them tough to shoot at. Don't get caught with spiders dancing in your face if there's another enemy in the room with you. Our prize for clearing out Spider Room is a fourth jar, this one full of rotting teeth. We've collected most of a person by now. I wonder if these came from Madame Harappa the landlord. Then there are no new rooms to explore, so by deduction, our 4 body part jars must solve the puzzle up in room 713. Let's do it. Notice that the hopscotch floor here kind of makes the shape of a body if you're generous. We have hair, teeth, fingernails, and toenails, so I stick those in the corresponding numbered slots, 3, 4, 2, and 1. This doesn't work until I realize why the hair jar is labeled love. I had the right concept, but the hair is in fact pubic hair. That goes in slot 2, and the teeth go up top. This opens the door to a carmine bedroom with some ammo for the effort, plus what we need, the elevator panel. And they kindly provide a shortcut. This narrow hallway ends in a ladder taking us straight to Funky Town. Honestly, taking the long way would have been nicer here. Slap on the elevator panel, and for once in a horror game, the ride goes without a scare. But it does skip the ground floor and deposit us in the basement. A basement which is surprisingly well lit and uncursed. There's one spitter enemy, but also a few supplies and a locked door requiring an emblem we lack. Inside a room we can open, there's a strange flat growth on the side of some equipment. This is actually a dexterity puzzle minigame, like where you have to guide the ring over a maze of wire without making contact or it'll buzz. Touching the walls damages you and forces a restart. It's so simple, and yet a pretty fun minigame in VR. Our prize for winning is the Leo emblem that we need. Before unlocking the Leo door, there is a safe room in the basement with a final note from our building lover. She let me in, Madame Harappa. Only took a couple of minutes schmoozing. Then she took out a huge ring of keys and led me back past the lobby, right down into the basement. The bricks are bare down here. They shine a little when you draw your flashlight across them. Warm moisture. I like to drag my hand over the wetness. Doesn't smell dusty or of mold. Smells of condensation. Clean wet. I breathe it deep. It sounds like this guy found what he was looking for, and we're about to meet it too. Stick our Leo emblem in the locked door, and... darkness. A large vaulted room with columns for cover. I waddle around feeling unsafe until something terrible notices me and the boss fight begins. This thing is the heart of the building. It's likely what the building lover had been sensing down in the basement that he was eager to come meet or join his body with. The boss drops from the ceiling on any side, silent but for the rattle of its chain, so pay attention. It advances, then becomes vulnerable in the same instant it attacks us, so I'm not sure how to ever avoid taking damage from it, but it seems I can land both shotgun blasts if I'm quick and I tank the hit. This game is very generous with healing items, so don't be shy about bringing several to a boss fight and spending them down. In between flybys, this boss scatters leeches on the ground that are best handled with our pistol, or they can be run from. The fight is bloody, but it's over after only 4 or 5 passes from the boss, and then we're free to inspect its nasty corpse up close. In the comm after the fight, I locate a new door in the back end of the room. It opens to a narrow gray utility area, then up a staircase bathed in pale red light. At the top, sky. We finally made it outside. March through the red mist, never get my vision clear, learn to love this kind of atmosphere. The city does not look like it's doing too well, with empty streets and closed businesses, but at least the roads and buildings are still intact. It's actually kind of peaceful. Fleshmen shamble about at a distance, but with so much room for activities, they can be outran. So where are we running to? Most of these buildings are pretty Half-Life 2-y, low-poly rectangles with boarded up or uninteractive doors. There's not any telegraphing by the game where to actually go. It's not a huge area though, and there is scarce loot if you really scour the place, but we're on our own hunting for the theater, where the doctor said he would meet us tonight. That theater is named the Cronin, an obvious reference to body horror film director David Cronenberg. The lobby of the Cronin is quite a sight, well lit and welcoming after recent past experiences. No doctor awaits us in the lobby, but there is a sign of life, a tape recorder with some artsy nonsense.
To escape darkness, you sit and pitch, peeling your eyes at a glowing window.
The voice doesn't match anyone's we've heard so far. Best I can tell, it's the ravings of someone afflicted with the flesh transformation, but I'm open to deeper readings if you have ideas. The imagery does sound like it's talking about watching a movie, but I think this is mostly done for a creepy atmosphere. Let's explore the theater. Down one hall on the right side. A few leeches dangle on the walls. Then enter the theater. This thing is fully gone to the viscous, with huge lumps of flesh filling the seats and tendrils reaching the ceiling. After some fighting, it looks like we lucked into going the right way first. We collect the Taurus emblem. It always feels nice in survival horror games to collect the key before finding the lock. That emblem admits us to the projection room off the lobby with a letter from a new character. Well, this afternoon I saw the kids again. This time, there was a woman with them. I guess their mom? She had a baby cradled in one arm. One of the kids caught my eye and shouted, "That's the guy, Mama!" The woman looked at me and stopped walking. "You her!" My heart raced. "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but I don't know what..." But she looked down at the baby nestled in her arm and jostled it. She leaned right into the baby's face. "You ever grow up to be like this?" She nodded my way. "I'll kill you. I'll kill you." She kept saying it to the infant as she trotted off down the sidewalk. What? We don't get more context on this. We never learn what this man was accused of. Maybe it was something vile, but let's note how a mom yelling that she would hypothetically kill her baby is not safe person behavior either. I think overall this letter just conveys the emotional decline of the population as the flesh spread over more of the organ quarter. Solving another dexterity puzzle on the projector puts a movie on to play downstairs, so let's go see what that's about. Enter the second theater, where we creep around the narrow entrance and meet our doctor friend.
Hello. I'm so glad you came out. No, don't trivialize how difficult it must have been for you. The outside world can be incredibly overstimulating. This is a grand achievement. It's been a long time since you visited the theater, hasn't it? I'm sure it feels a little different now that you're coming alone. Many memories locked away among these rows and flip-up seats. But let's not dwell on that. Please, make yourself comfortable. The movie is about to begin. This is what we've been waiting for. Observe. Metaviscous Sample 17 has successfully assimilated all organic functions. It's the furthest we've made it. It should be but a matter of days before this extraordinary behavior. Metaviscous does not understand the line between organic and inorganic, attempting to transplant it into its environment, trying to make a body out of it. Feeds The growths do not stop. This is the core process of the brain. This is where it was ended and where it will begin again in the university. The university, that infernal place.
And like that, the doctor is vanished. Lot to talk about here. For one, we have a name for the flesh. It's called the metaviscus. The doctor was proud we managed to beat our anxiety and come out in public. And he mentioned that we came alone this time, implying that we used to bring a partner here, or even a family. The movie depicted patient 0, well, 17, the same subject from the intro, in the operating room. Whatever test they were running succeeded critically, killing the patient but spawning the inexorable metaviscus, a living force that converts its environment, organic and inorganic, into more of itself. That growth must have kept going, and here we are. It's at this point we realize that we are playing as patient 17's husband. It explains what the doctor said to us about coming alone now, why we had the nightmare about the day that we lost our wife in the intro, and frankly why our apartment is so large despite living alone. Could any traces of our wife remain alive inside the metaviscus? There's one untried door out of the theater to a small save room containing a Metro card. That's our only hint on where to go next. Exit to the streets to find that time has passed and the red sky has turned to black. It's nighttime in the Oregon Quarter. Enemies still wander the streets though, and they're a bigger threat now because we cannot perceive them until we're already close. Getting boxed into a dead end is a real threat now. We're stumbling through the dark streets, running between scant oases of streetlight and praying that we run into the subway entrance. We don't really know why. In a dreamlike, i.e. Silent Hill-y way, we're just being drawn there. Eventually, I find the stairs down to the Metro at any rate. Scan our way in and descend to the train platform. I have a funny feeling that no trains will be running on schedule tonight, so I hop on the tracks and hoof it in the direction that does not have damaging viscous all over the floor. The game puts on corny 80s action movie music here, like we're infiltrating the bank where the terrorists have hostages. It's super out of place, but also pretty awesome, so I f with that. This section is totally safe. It's just linear tunnels and doors until we reach a large underground complex. This serves as our next hub area, and I'm just going to call it the tunnels. Find a letter here in new handwriting. Pa always used to say to me, Henry, whenever you're really wrestling with something in your head make sure to try and write it down. Transferring it from mind to body to paper will straighten it out like rain pressing rivulets down a gully. One of the many words of wisdom he imparted to me over the years. Down in this place, I am part of a machine within a machine within a machine. The biggest machine is everything all around everything up above, everything down below. The cities, the streets, the people, the world's flora and fauna, one big old machine made up of many smaller machines. The middle machine is this place, pulling fuel out from the walls. The smallest machine is me, us, down here in the dark. In these caves, your arms become pistons, your back becomes an elevator, legs become barrows, toes become tracks. A machine within a machine? In a way, it's a message about the connectedness of the universe. But in this context, machines feel diametrically opposed to the flesh that is everywhere. It's an interesting inversion of the usual technology overtaking nature narrative. I think we're rooting against nature here. I wonder if we'll meet a sort of anti-John Henry, someone who's more machine than man, working in secret against the blooming metaviscus up above. Well, go on and reach the center control room in these tunnels. 5 switches power 4 doors, each switch toggling multiple door states. From poking at it, it looks like we'll need 3 batteries to solve this and get out. But we also need batteries to open other doors around here to get more batteries. And you can pull some nonsense like powering a door, then yoinking the battery and ducking through the door before it closes on you to lightly cheese this area. I honestly can't tell if that's intentional, but it felt like something that I would attempt if this was real life, so I'm happy that Oregon Quarter lets you have fun with it. One tunnel has us shimmying through a tight spot. Then, 30 yards further, a clunk. Something begins pursuit with a creepy headlamp on. It's like if a train were a man. I think this is our machine dude. Unfortunately, since we're muscle and bone, we appear to be his enemy, and he's immune to our bullets. I die to him once, fumbling around with door batteries, but at least those wasted bullets are returned when we reload the game. Next time, I'm ready. After sprinting away for a while, I find a door to close between us and dump aggro. Trainman lurks there for a minute before turning his back. A back that contains a battery, just like the doors need. Let's just sneak in there. Turn out the lights. The party's over. What a cool encounter. With his battery, we've got enough to power the gate puzzle, so head back there now and open our way forward. The tunnels on the far side of these gates are not safe. They're wide open and dark, making navigation tough, and they're loaded with monsters, including a second train man. After groping my way through that whistling hell, stairs offer hope. We're back on the train tracks, which are normal for a spell, until they run right into a giant sphincter. From here on, we're in the Metaviscus's home territory, and things are going to get a lot fleshier. I love how this parallels the Silent Hill Otherworld. Sometimes we're exploring in plain rooms with plain walls, and that's a relief. But some areas are infested with red, bloody lumps where the Metaviscus has claimed, and that ratio is gonna get worse and worse for the rest of the game. We emerge from the tunnels into a private brothel room in the Jupiter's Belly Club, the club that the artist asked us to meet her at. It makes perfect sense within the game. The red light is on theme with the viscous, flesh being an obvious metaphor for sex. The map for this place labels each room with the moons of Jupiter, the giant red planet, and in the corner is written, "Stillinger will meet you here." This may be the name of our artist, but she's credited only as the artist, so I'll continue calling her that. The room marked Thyone is our local safe room with a special treat, our third and final gun of the game, a submachine gun. The pistol hasn't really dropped off in efficacy though, so another gun mostly just dilutes the ammo types and makes inventory management a little bit more complicated. These tiny rooms in the club have my favorite use of VR in this game because it's so thematic. Many rooms have a peephole into neighboring rooms that we have to glance through to spot symbols drawn on white paper that we need for a puzzle. And one room isn't empty. There's some kind of fleshman inside, and the game actually lets me poke my gun barrel in the hole and take him out from over here. The little touches of realism are what make this game, and much of virtual reality really, so exciting to me as a gamer. Crouching my actual body to fit under low ceilings, having the precision to aim my gun through a little hole in the wall, craning my neck to spot ammo in a crack between the furniture and the wall, this kind of thing is not possible in flat games. Okay, use our peephole symbols to open a door to the bar where we meet the artist for our date.
You're a bit late, but I knew you'd make it eventually. I'm very proud of you. This place is usually more crowded. We don't need anyone else though, do we? You look so sad. Get over it already. People disappear, people die, people go. Just leave them behind. All those memories you're holding on to, they're poison. Sorry, I didn't mean all that. Today's my birthday. It's always a bad day. There's nothing I can do about it. You should get out of here before I ruin your life too. Give me some time to dwell on all my failures.
What's she doing in the club on a Thursday? She said she's only here to celebrate her birthday. The artist, like our doctor, is proud of us for making it out of our apartment, but she scolds us for being hung up on someone we've lost. This confirms to me that we're playing as the husband of the deceased Sample 17. But it also sounds like she lost someone, or everyone, blaming her own failures for ruining the lives of others. It feels like the artist craves connection, but in her fear retreats to independence, and her waffling attitudes are an aspect of the Silent Hill NPCs that Organ Quarter has nailed. One ominous tidbit I'd like us to chew on. Our whole journey so far has been motivated by leaving our apartment to reach the theater, then this bar, spurred onward by NPCs. Do you maybe get the sense we're getting lured somewhere? The upstairs of Jupiter's Belly is a full-on dance club. Stepping out onto the dance floor is madness. It's wall to wall with dancing fleshmen who are fortunately lost in the music and aloof. These dancers with their two heads each look like a couple who have melted into each other and now mindlessly wiggle to the music while their bodies bleed and combine. Ugh. As usual, we need an emblem to proceed, but this one's split in two. The first half is up on stage, along with several units of ammo, as if to say, go for it. I took the bait and methodically executed the entire room of dancers to spare them from their hell, and to cover my bases in case they were going to activate and attack me later, and of course to check if there's a trophy for it. But all I got for my trouble was a room full of meatballs. Save your bullets. Our second emblem half is in Side Hall 1. This room is awful quiet and has an awful lot of hiding places. Yeah, they start a dance party when you go for the emblem half. This is the one segment of the game where they cheat by spawning enemies who weren't in the room before to come attack you once you trigger the rave, but it works well in service of the tense and hilarious encounter. You can fight them if you want, or save your supplies and rush back out. Alright, stick both halves of the Pisces emblem in the door to open Side Hall 2. Immediately? Hell no. Stapled to the wall is a giant biomechanical heart, 8 flesh pistons popping out like barnacles to poke at its loathsome arteries. This fight is simple, but it's sweet. Avoid the boss's projectiles while shooting the small flesh pistons when they expose themselves. Do this and the center screen will weaken, revealing what looks like a human woman trapped inside, piloting the vehicle, whom we can then shoot. Forcing us to hit such small targets is honestly a great mechanic that only works in VR. Precise aiming is not something that flat games pull off well outside of sniping sections, but it's fun here trying to keep cool under pressure and shoot the right parts. Oh, and the floor rotates with spikes slashing our heels if we don't carefully time when we cross them as we strafe the room. Let's get out of here. The artist meets us again on our way out of the club.
You won't be coming back, will you? You don't have to go. You could stay here in the organ quarter. It's a bit of a but it could be much worse. The university is one of the best in the country. Plenty of young flesh and opportunities. I'm really glad I met you, but once you leave, you'll no longer exist. Don't take it personally. Oh, but don't think for a second that I'll forget about your promise. Your skin has my name on it, so take care of it, please. Until then.
The poor thing wishes we'd stay with her. Her line, "Once we leave, we'll no longer exist," along with what she said about failing everyone in her life, speaks to her loneliness and abandonment issues. She sees the worst in herself and gives up on us before we can leave her in order to maintain some control. And yet, she still hopes we take care. She's got a good heart hidden somewhere inside a lot of insecurities. Note that every NPC counter has been physically separated from us. The artist is behind a fence or across a gap. The doctor was up on a little platform. This might have been a shortcut by the devs so they didn't need to code interactions with the NPCs up close, but it serves to establish an estrangement from the only friendly faces we've met in the world, a distance we're unable to close. Silent Hill uses cutscenes to keep NPC encounters disattached and surreal, but Organ Quarter uses physical barriers. Then I thought this was the end of the game. The artist has told us goodbye, spoke about us leaving the Organ Quarter, and there are no enemies out here. Just waiting for my ending cutscene. So, why is there a healing syringe on this park bench? And another save point? Uh-oh. Thus begins a creepy, long walk through Lacora Park in darkness. It seems I found the road to nowhere, and I'm trying to escape. And we're not alone. Dancing shadows just outside the flashlight's reach hint at fleshmen that we do not have the ammo to spare on, so let's keep our eyes forward and our feet in motion. Quite a ways down the path, a new noise joins the breeze. Every several moments, a grunting moan emits from beyond the fences. Something huge and alive is in there. At long last, doors at the end of the path admit us to the closed campus of the Organ Quarter Medical University. Flesh students shamble about the fountain as I hunt for any door that will admit me to the building. Why are we here? The same reasons we've gone anywhere in this game. Momentum and curiosity. And something else, invisible and magnetic. Most of the city has moved on and moved out, or been assimilated, but we hung on to hope or grief shut up in our apartment. And now we're approaching, as the movie called it, the Infernal University, where the brain of the Metaviscus, born of our late spouse, was ended and began again. The university is the last area of the game, about the same size as our apartment building. And to discredit the game, I don't think they did quite enough with the structure of the building for a medical university. Where are the lecture halls, operating theaters, the morgue? It's mostly small classrooms. And while the moment-to-moment gameplay is fantastic, we have not seen a new enemy type since the leech ads in the first boss fight, so there haven't been any new challenges in a while. But the total length of the game is only maybe 5 hours, so it's not long enough for the lack of variety to become too off-putting. Find a letter in the safe room. This old typewriter was stashed away in the English department, a rickety beauty. Should help me focus on my work in these silent hallways. Not but the clicking of the keys to keep me company. Perfect. 4 nights it's been, so far, sleeping in storage cupboards or between lecture halls, hiding from security at sundown and sunup. At least these packs of mop heads make for decent bedding. Only problem is, I haven't got my ointment, so skin is flaring up again. But I can't go back home. Can't even think about it. Not for a second. Those walls remind me of every mistake I made beneath them. Here I get locked up every night, and there's no trace of me. Nobody to tell me I need help, to tell me to clear out. Can't wait to get some work done. This note was actually typed by our artist friend if we piece the clues together. Skin flare-ups. The artist covers most of her body and asked for our skin after we die. And the note mentions mistakes that keep them from going home, as the artist mentioned her failures ruining the lives of people around her. Did she have a hand in creating the metaviscus? It would explain why she has remained in the neighborhood after it got infected. Well, that's all we can do in the south wing, so cross north over the courtyard. A nasty lungs key admits us through a flesh door. It looks like the staff here had some success sculpting the flesh into usable tools of man. The elevator admits us to the thoroughly unpleasant upper floors, which are entirely given to the viscous. Floor 2 is a dead end for now, needing another zodiac emblem. 5 has the new content. The walls on floor 5 are fully just skin at this point, and more of the lovely red floor impedes progress in certain directions. Duck into the men's bathroom for another typed note in the sink. I've been borrowing lab equipment for a couple of days, working on my projects, but yesterday there was a scale and beaker missing from the rack. Thought I forgot to return them or something, but then I heard the sounds downstairs. I figured a professor was prepping for a class experiment, but then I heard it again, more like a drill or a power tool. Then, from time to time, combustions that rattled the bookshelves. Doesn't sound like anything we'd have to do for class. I'm going to go take a look next time I hear it. So the artist was enrolled as a student here, and it sounds like she wasn't the only one running experiments at night. The 5th floor does a good job escalating the tension. After forcing me to run through the pain floor, which chunks off a lot of health, double doors lead to one of the coolest rooms in the game, the library. Labyrinthine bookshelves, some short, most tall, are such good setting for zombie combat, and furniture everywhere means hiding places for supplies if you look close. But the door in the back of the library needs a brain key, and we don't have that yet. What we need to do first is collect bottles of chemicals that we'll need to mix. Between those bottles, several anatomical keys, and ammo for 3 guns, inventory management becomes critical here, and the emergency healing item I usually like to carry is becoming a skippable luxury. After we gather 3 chemical bottles, bring those to the chem lab downstairs. There's a bin of water on the front desk, and a photograph of Jared Leto on the wall in the early stages of flesh affliction. A tape recorder here fills in most of the remaining plot.
I came in early today and sure enough, it seeped under the door of the cupboard. Need to try a new acid spray compound to keep it back. It exceeds my expectations. Every day, picture a future where there are no waiting lists for organs. Picture it. The committee can't. Frankly, I spit in their face. Need to make sure Calkins lets me know about any lost causes that come in. The cadavers he sends up here for the students are no good. I need living subjects whose loved ones are desperate enough to sign our waivers. Ones who don't have any other options. In case I need it, the students never touched the old operating theater on the 2nd floor. Calkins, lost causes, and Dorothy cleaning up reports.
So there we have it. The viscous was designed as a way to grow replacement organs outside of the body with no loss of human life. But the speaker, likely our doctor, works in secret with colleague Calkins to experiment on the living bodies of people with nowhere else to turn. Likely our late partner had a terminal illness and consented to experiments, not knowing the purpose was never to cure her, but to serve as host for unbridled organ farming. The flesh is out of control, but the right acidic compound can stop its growth in places. Remember forever ago we found some ammo covered in black goo that we couldn't use? Our item box is filled with goo items that we've been accumulating ever since. This room, 85% of the way through the game, is where we finally learn how to melt the goo. With 3 drops of red, 1 of green, and 2 of blue, we now have an acid that gives a significant resupply to our ammo stores. And it cleans off this brain key. It's time to see what lies behind the library. It's actually just more hallway, with a welcoming party of fleshmen. While we go murdering those, I'll point this out. You may have noticed how enemies in this game are quite jittery in their movements, and ascribed it to indie jank. And probably it is. But the weird movements make sense for gameplay too, since we're able to aim so well for headshots, making the enemies jerk around, especially in reaction to bullets, reintroduces a little challenge in aiming. It keeps the combat more engaging against slow-moving enemies since we can't just easily chain headshots, so I personally don't mind that enemy animations are a little bit rough. Our grand prize for shooting our way through that hallway, and the following very busy room too, is an Ares emblem. There's also one classroom to replenish some of the supplies we just ran down with a final note from the artist. Apparently it was Dr. Alset the whole time. He's down there making a racket. I crept down to the medical department and peeked through the double doors. Almost had a stroke when I saw him staring right back at me. He wasn't upset, to my surprise. He actually invited me in and showed me what he's been up to. I'd heard horror stories from the others, but he seems really nice. He said he knew I was staying here the whole time and that he won't rat me out. Apparently, he could use a hand. He's working on something which could be a breakthrough, he says, that he is inches away from making history. He pointed at my bad skin and said if I signed a waiver to work with him, we might be able to clear it up for good. Heard pitches like that many times before, but I guess I have nothing left to lose at this point. So it seems like Dr. Alset, Tesla backwards, if that's any kind of reference, tricked the artist to sign a waiver as well and become another live subject for his viscous tests. Though it sounds like her skin was bad even before that. Make one final trip to the chem lab where we dissolve several more cases of Uzi ammo for our Uzi, then grab a few stacks of ammo and bring that Ares emblem to the second floor where the doctor's voice recording had told us lies the forbidden operating theater. Inside, one long hallway, then another. Only a single door opens at the end. It's the operating room from the intro nightmare, and our doctor is here, alive.
Welcome, my friend. Have you come to keep me company? Or have you come to visit our viscous? It does not fear you, nor me. I think it knows we had a hand in its creation. Perhaps it understands you as family. Sometimes I can hear it. I can understand it. What did you think you could do? Did you think you made it this far thanks to your own merits? You're pathetic. We are the mice, the rats, the bacteria. We are in a maze that the viscous has created. The laboratory has become the cage. We, the experiment. We are all but figurants in all of this. We are insignificant. The viscous pays no heed to our human needs. I don't have any more control. I know it does not feel pain. Take comfort in that. You will forget all your pain soon, too.
Alset certainly has a lot of respect and fear for his creation. He believes the viscous itself has been leading us here. Is that what he meant by he has no more control? Has the viscous been influencing him to lead us here? I do love the story this tells, and it explains why the doctor shoots at it in the end in defiance of domination. And the fact that this is our wife, in some part of its core, explains why we've been allowed to live this long and brought here. Perhaps she, longs for a reunion. Enter the operating room, and he's already gone. Has he fled or been absorbed? Well, say goodbye to reality. It's time to enter the halls of flesh at ground zero of the incarnation of the viscous. One final safe room contains another mumbo-jumbo tape recording, but I think I kind of get it by now. These recordings seem to document what goes on in your mind as your body becomes part of the viscous. There's a softening and a tearing as your insides become your outsides. Perhaps self-inflicted, horrifyingly? Grab what ammo you can carry. There's healing to be found along the way if you need it. Tense battle music plays as we race down esophageal halls toward the final boss. All the doors are sphincters now, yawning before us in a manner that's upsettingly welcoming. Then a pause in the action for a puzzle room of sorts. We've reached a tight, black-walled maze with venal pathways taking us around tight corners to sporadic ammo reserves, and a hidden fleshman or two. This area feels like something from an aquarium or the queue for a thematic roller coaster, and I really enjoy it. Finally, a door. To another pathway with a door, but this one's cooler. Are we ready to face what's left of our spouse and perhaps interface with the new flesh god at the core of a new world? Through the door lies our apartment. How? It's been brought here, or more likely recreated from memory. A memory that is imperfect, as the hallway slants and our furniture is up on the ceiling. The power of the viscous is not only to consume, but to create. It just doesn't get all the little details correct, like gravity and space. And hey, if you're able to piss upwards, the viscous actually created a pretty good bathroom. Another dark path leads to another door, and we're snapped back to red halls. We must not be distracted by visions of comfort and ceiling toilets. The central processor of the metaviscous, perhaps the twisted shell of our late wife, has a date with the business end of our shotgun. A freight elevator creeps upward in the darkness, meaty flaps folding back above us. The viscous wants to meet us as much as we want to meet it. I creep around the corner. Something loathsome and wiggling greets us.
Listen to the sound of my voice. I am pure now. I can feel only truth. I can see with only the purest clarity. Can you feel this energy? This is our creation. Partake of your reward.
It actually seems Dr. Allset has melded with the viscous core, becoming its figurehead. With the restrictions on movement that a VR game imposes, we can't duck or roll around our living room after all. This final fight wasn't made too complicated. The walls rotate, both on a timer and after the doctor takes damage, so we're basically ping-ponging from one side of the arena to the other, feeding the doctor a shell or two at a time, and dodging his projectiles while spawned fleshmen tax our ammo in the runs between. From a Steam community post by the developer, I believe the boss's hit points are scaled to our bullet count to make things more tense. It did take me exactly running out of shotgun shells and swapping to my pistol to defeat it phase 1, so either it is scaled or we did get lucky and we do need to scrounge for ammo and play very conservatively the whole game like I have been. Phase 2 is extremely vomit-inducing visually. I am pretty strongly trypophobic, and I think the designer specifically knew the kind of person he was targeting with this mass of quivering polyps. It's also got a bit of a Final Fantasy IX Necron vibe with these ring attachments. By shooting the nasty bits enough times, the core opens up, and one clip blasted into it at point blank is enough to tear down the world around me. My game glitched here. 2 times it's happened already this game, now 3. The game has placed my character positioned inside a wall when transitioning areas, like a bad teleportation, and left me unable to move until I reload the game. It's a bummer to occur after the final boss, but luckily the game saved my progress here, and I did not need to fight the boss again after quitting and relaunching. Reality is gone. I stand on iron platforms, hovering in the mind mists of the viscous. Is this where consciousnesses go that the viscous assimilates? Are we part of it? The doctor is up ahead.
Hello, my friend. Join me for a moment as the viscous sleeps. It seems that you've already made your decision. If the piece here does not convince you, then I envy your resilience. I was hoping you'd stay. But I suppose there's no other choice for you. The viscous continues to grow. Everybody, everything you know and love will be here in good time. They will be waiting for you when you are ready. Until then, I too shall remain alone. There is nothing else for me outside. The viscous is here with me. Look, here it comes. Thank you for joining me in this last moment.
He rests in the womb-like warmth of the viscous, as will the rest of the world as the viscous continues to grow. It seems defeating its core only put it to sleep, buying us an opportunity to leave, not defeating it. But remember what the doctor said back in the operating theater. He said we're fools to believe we made it this far on our own merit. And so, it may only be with the understanding and the blessing of the viscous that we are even allowed to escape. It seems confident that we'll end up back there again one day. But for now, we face down our grief and our isolation and emerge to sunrise in the park, to morning mists that are not red, but white. Organ Quarter is fantastic. It's simple, but it's a masterclass in project management. There is no fat on this game. For such a small team, they made a surprisingly balanced game. There aren't a million polygons, there's only 3 guns, just a handful of monsters, and not much environmental detail. But they delivered a complete mini Silent Hill in VR that's extremely fun and faithful, hitting all the major pieces of a survival horror game while experimenting enough to give Organ Quarter its own identity. For me, the biggest differentiator, production value aside, would be the nature of the horror. Organ Quarter is less themed on psychological horror than a Silent Hill game. Yes, it develops themes of grief and isolation, but I'd say that, as alluded by the Cronin Theater, Organ Quarter's horror is more immediate and literal, focusing on distortions and twisting of the human body. There's more of a sci-fi mystery aspect to Organ Quarter, looking for answers to the question, what happened here? Rather than a need to dive into the psyches of several characters to reveal some kind of deeper message. And that's going to happen when you have so few character and NPC interactions, right? But it's also the fact that we're playing in first person. The game can't show us how we're feeling like Silent Hill 2 can for James. It needs to create feelings in us, and at least for me, that was really done well with the nasty trypophobia enemies, but also with tight hallways, the barren streets of the city, and NPC encounters that took place at a medium dreamlike distance. I barely even touched on the actual gameplay, and that's because it just works, and it's exactly what you'd expect out of retro-inspired survival horror. Exploration is fun and rewarding, level design is strong, there's a handful of serviceable puzzles. One system I feel they missed, which would have added a ton of immersion, is a more realistic inventory. Some virtual reality games have you storing items in a physical fanny pack and reaching over your shoulder to equip the shotgun that's strapped to your back. I even think they could have done away with item boxes entirely and used a Resident Evil 0 approach, where if you need more item space, you just set stuff down on the floor, and that's where it will stay if you need it later. Organ Quarter's biggest strength, though, as I would argue is also Silent Hill's, is the atmosphere. Like, I honestly don't have more words to add. We've been experiencing it for the whole length of the video. It's gross, it's oppressive, you feel unsafe, a lot of wet noises, it's perfectly awful. This game joins Tormented Souls and The Padre on my short list of incredibly faithful, well-designed retro survival horror revival games. If you have your own to add, please let me know. I definitely want to play them all. And we may not be done with this IP. As recently as May 2023, the developers went on record saying they'll definitely return to Organ Quarter in the future, and I truly pray that they do. Thank you for watching my second VR game retrospective in a row. I promised it's just a coincidence, but this one was so Halloween appropriate, I just had to cover it this season. Thank you so much to my patrons who keep this channel running and let me take risks on smaller games like this. Y'all mean the world to me. I post about coming videos and get more into the creation process over on Patreon if you're interested in supporting the channel. Hitting the good buttons right here on YouTube is free, and that helps me a lot as well. We also have a Discord server, y'all are welcome to join, and I'm live on Twitch once a week if you want to hang out between uploads. Would love to see you there. That's it for now. See you later, alligator.